homeless community. I'm talking about the problems with homelessness, solutions, and how to solve it. So we're going to be tying Jesus into it too.
Yes. Introduce yourself.
So my name is Gabriel, and I'm here to talk about what homelessness is. So basically, as you definitely know already, homelessness is the state of having no direct source of income or like a residence. And the U.S. Department of Housing and Urban Development (HUD) defines a homeless person as one who lacks a fixed, regular, and adequate nighttime residence. And so the causes of homelessness would be things such as like income inequality, living costs, stagnant wages, reliance on seasonal wages, housing shortage, rent costs, support services like houses that house homeless people and such, and substance use disorder like drugs and alcohol, domestic violence, natural disasters, and racism, other things like that.
Alright, so we all know what homelessness is, right?
Right.
And there really is no clear-cut solution to homelessness. We live in a capitalist society where homelessness, there has to be poor people for a capitalist society to work. There is no capitalism without poor people. You need rich, poor, and middle class all working together to make a capitalist society. So if the only way not to have homelessness is to not have a capitalist society. That's pretty impossible in this day and age. We could switch to a communist society where everybody is the same, right? There's no poor people, there's no rich people, everyone has the same wages, right? The only problem with that is people don't get to use their talents. No one gets to shine, right? In this capitalist society, people have talents that they can use, soccer, doctors, and they get paid more based on how good they work. We already know that, right?
Right.
So for communism, it's the same thing for everybody. Everyone has the same wages no matter how good they work, no matter how bad they work. And they get little benefits, like they get to have more freedom. But there really is no individuality in jobs or in the economic state. So the reason why we shouldn't really ask ourselves, well, we should try to figure out the solution to homelessness continuously, like a middle ground between communism and capitalism. But right now we don't really have a clear-cut answer on homelessness. So our question shouldn't be how to solve homelessness, but what we can do to help homelessness in any way, shape, or form. That's this whole homeless help program me and Gabriel have been working on for the past few months, right? And I want to start with talking about the first Bible verse. It's Isaiah 58:7. And Isaiah 58:7 says, "Is it not to share your food with the hungry and to provide the poor wanderer with shelter, when you see the naked to clothe them, and to not turn away from your own flesh and blood?" So basically, in this passage, Jesus and God is basically saying that helping people and helping the homeless isn't an option. It's not like something you can decide not to do and be like perfectly fine. God commands us to help others. So in this passage, he says, why should you not help the hungry, feed the poor, clothe the naked, and not turn your back on your own flesh and blood? It's basically like we have an obligation to help homeless people. And another passage is Hebrews 13:2. Do not forget to show hospitality to strangers, for by so doing some people have shown hospitality to angels without knowing it. Basically what this is saying is that God has angels, and there's many different types. We're not going to go into that, but there's angels that can take on human forms, right? And God's people sometimes take an angel without even knowing it. And God's saying to show hospitality. Hospitality is a relationship of a host towards a guest, wherein the host receives the guest with some amount of goodwill and welcome. Matthew, so this is another Bible verse just to tie it all together. Matthew 25, verses 35, 39, and 40 says, "For I was hungry, and you gave me something to eat. I was thirsty, and you gave me something to drink. And I was a stranger, and you invited me in. When did we see you sick or in prison and go to visit you?" The king will reply, "Truly I tell you, whatever you did for one of the least of these brothers and sisters of mine, you did for me." It's basically God saying, so the God's chosen people in Matthew 25 are saying, God said, you helped me, you clothed me, you fed me. And the people are like, when did we feed Jesus? I never fed you, Lord. We never ever came in even contact with you. You just had faith in you. And Jesus said, whatever you do for someone else is done unto Jesus also. So if you help someone else, you're helping Jesus. If you feed someone else, you're feeding Jesus. And that also works on the contrary. If you're hurting someone else, you're hurting Jesus. If you're bad talking someone else, you're bad talking Jesus. That's what God is saying in this passage. It says, and so if you go to Matthew 25, there is a parable, right? It's called the oil parable. It's Matthew 25, verses 1 through 13. And in this story, Jesus tells a story about 10 virgins and bridesmaids, waiting for a bridegroom, which symbolizes Jesus. Jesus is the bridegroom. And all of them have lamps. And there are 5 wise of them and 5 foolish. The 5 wise bring oil with them to refuel their lamps. The 5 foolish don't. They just say, we don't need it, it's fine, whatever. So they go on to the place where the bridegroom is, and the ones without oil start to run out. The 5 foolish, they start to run out of oil, and they're like, we need oil. Hey, can we borrow some of yours? And the 5 wise are like, we won't have enough for the both of us. Go into town and buy some extra oil. So the wise use the oil that they refilled earlier to help, to refuel their own fire. Jesus sees them, and with the bridegroom, which symbolizes as Jesus sees them, the bridegroom says, come on in, you have a fire, your lamp is lit, come on in. So the other foolish ones, they go to oil, they buy some extra oil, they fill up their lamps, and they go to the bridegroom. The bridegroom says, depart from me, I don't know you. Right? Why did Jesus say that? Well, the oil is representative of spiritual readiness, faith, your works, and a real relationship with God. The wise virgins were prepared to wait, showing commitment and ongoing faith. The foolish ones were ready, symbolizing people who took faithful on the outside but aren't truly prepared on the inside. They showed that by the way they lived, they didn't live for God. They didn't feed the hungry when they saw someone hurting. They didn't help them in any way, shape, or form. They only thought of themselves and just had the label of Christianity, not actual Christianity. Christianity isn't a religion, it's following Christ. So when people act like Christians, but their daily life doesn't show that they are Christian, because by the way they live, they don't show they're Christian. It's basically saying that they're not saved. They don't know God because they're not obeying God's commandment. God says, if you love me, you will obey my commandments. So that's not what they're doing that's basically what the oil is symbolizing, spiritual readiness. And Jesus' main point, he says in this chapter, the final verse of the parable, Matthew chapter 25, verse 13, he says, therefore keep watch because you do not know the day or the hour. It connects to the idea that we should always live with purpose, kindness, and faith, like those who are ready for Jesus' return. Right? There's another parable in Matthew 25. This has a lot of parables, by the way. There is the gold parable, and you're thinking of is likely the parable of talents. Right? That's what it's a gold parable, but in the Bible it's like the parable of talents, where a master gives his servants bags of gold called talents. Right? And the story summary is basically a master gives 3 different servants different amounts of gold based on how good they are. or like how prepared they are for the work. So a master gives his servants, he gives one of his servants 5 bags of gold. He gives his other servant 2 bags of gold. He gives the final one 1 bag of gold. The servant, the other ones with 5 and 2, invest their gold and double it. They make a profit. The servant with 1 pack of gold hides it in the ground and does absolutely nothing with it. So when the master returns, he praises the first 2 servants. He praises the first 2 servants for using what they were given. But the one who hid his gold or his talent, gold represents talent, is called lazy and he's punished. He's sent out of the master's place. So the gold talents represents the gifts, opportunities, time, and resources God gives us in our life. God wants us to use what's been given us to grow, serve others, and make a difference. Hiding your gifts or being afraid to try is not what God wants. He values effort, responsibility, and courage. He does not value laziness. That's called the sin of sloth. If you didn't know, laziness is a sin of sloth. So the main point Jesus is trying to explain in this parable is don't waste what God gave you. Use your talents for good and for helping others, because it's never yours. It's God who's given you the talent. So use it to help others, develop your skills, or make a positive impact. Now, I want to tell you about this organization that we're doing, okay? And this is all going to tie back to Jesus, but we're doing an organization called Metropolitan Ministries. It's a nonprofit organization that helps people who are homeless or at risk of becoming homeless. So even if you can't, because on your daily life, you probably don't see a lot of homeless people, or even if you do, it's probably like they're on the side of the street, and you don't really like come in contact. So this is a way to help others from far away at a distance, right? Even if you have no way of reaching them. So Metropolitan Ministries, what they do, they provide food, shelter, and clothing. They help families find permanent housing, offer job training and education programs to get people back into the cycle of everyday life, and support children with daycare and school programs so that young children don't fall into the same trap, right? And the people who are the most homeless in Florida are ages 25 to 54. And the reason why is because that's right after college. And when you're in college, you don't really like homeless, right? You have campus and it's very cheap, and you're going there usually, especially people with scholarships are not really homeless. But after college, they're not prepared. They don't know what to do with their jobs. Sometimes they don't get jobs. So 25 to 54 is the working years of most people in America. So that's why a lot of people either get laid off or they become homeless, right? So the Metropolitan Ministries help with that. They give counseling and spiritual support. They mainly serve the people in Tampa Bay, around Florida. So you can offer donations like Cash App, or you can offer real life money. You can donate it to the Metropolitan Ministries to help other homeless people in need. And this other verse that I have, it says, it basically ties all the other verses that I've said so far together. It's a poetic calls for social justice. It says, Isaiah 1:17, learn to do right, seek justice, defend the oppressed, take up the cause of the fatherless, plead the cause of the widow. Now basically what this means is Jesus is saying to help others and to not be indifferent to others' suffering. Have compassion and empathy. Empathy means with suffering. It means that you're not just like, oh, you're hurt, oh, that's okay, whatever. It's actually showing kindness, love, and care. Because God says love holds no record of wrongs. It is very caring and kind. So we have to do the same as Christ followers. And it says, seek justice. Right? Not like petty revenge, but righteous judgment. That we understand what righteous judgment is based on God's teachings. So that's what God means. That's what Jesus means in this passage when he says, learn to do right, seek justice, defend the oppressed, take up the cause of fatherless, plead the case of the widow. And it also goes back to when we see injustice, we have to point it out. So like in the Holocaust, they saw many Jew people were killed. I think 11 point something million were killed because it happened for so long, went on for multiple years, because people were different. Even the Jews were convinced that they just stayed quiet, didn't do anything, they would be saved. But soon they were sent to concentration camps too. And this can be applied to everyday life. So what we can do is when we see injustice, we don't be afraid to point it out. God says, what does it profit a man to gain the entire world but forfeit his soul? So we have to stand up for injustice and fight back against injustice. And also I want to point you out to the sheep and the goats parable. So basically this is Matthew 31 through 46, and basically I want to point out one specific verse that I really like. It basically says Matthew chapter 25 verse 35. For I was hungry and you gave me something to eat. I was thirsty and you gave me something to drink. I was a stranger and you invited me in. I needed clothes and you clothed me. I was sick and you looked after me. I was in prison and you came to visit me. And basically what it's saying is constant care. Not just a one-time thing and then it's over. Jesus asks for constant compassion, constant love, constant forgiveness, and constant being obedient to his commands. That's what Jesus is asking. So basically, homelessness, if you want to know how to help the homeless, you have to look at Jesus and what he did. We can't change our hearts without seeking Jesus first in a relationship with him. So you have to look for what he did first and base our whole understanding of life around it. Jesus isn't just one day out of our week on Sunday. Jesus isn't just a hobby we do on Sunday and then go back to our everyday life. He's the foundation that we build our lives on. So to help homelessness, you have to look at Jesus and his caring heart and what he did for the world, right? So to help homelessness, there are many ways. And Gabriel, there are many ways. He has a lot of data and stuff he wants to share with you. So that's the Jesus part tied in. We're going to tell you some statistics and facts about homelessness that you may have not known to help you out.
Okay, so basically, as I was saying before, like the causes of homelessness and whatnot, it also ties into like who is homelessness and what. So, and to start, basically like people like 24 to 54 in that age range, those are where like people are homeless most. As Eric was saying about like how you get out of college or high school and then you just like drop out, you don't want to get a job, get laid off or whatnot. That's basically where people become homeless the most. About like 50%, in that range is the amount of homelessness in our Tampa Bay area, which is about 16,000 people just in Tampa, not even all Florida. And the second like age range where homelessness is like critical in is like younglings and stuff, like children, like victims of divorce or like domestic abuse and whatnot. Yeah, it's kind of sad to think about that, but in order to build off of what like Eric was saying off religion, logically we should help homeless people whenever we see them, even if it's just like a bit of money or whatnot, because that's like really all we can do, and empathizing with them, like just imagining what it's like to be like a victim of domestic abuse and like being grateful for all we have now, how our lives have led up to this.
All right.
We just want to say, so we know 15,000 are experiencing homelessness, and of those 15,000, 4,000 are children under the age of 18. 8,000 are adults 55 and over who didn't really get retirement money, didn't invest their money. So 16,000 so 15,000 are unsheltered, don't have homes. So we should try to do everything we can to help them. So we recommend donating to Metropolitan Ministries to help out in any way we can.